you've ever had to rely on a water tanker for your home or seen a dried up lake in your city, you know how critical our water crisis has become. What if there was a way to recycle that water that we waste every day and turn it into something better than what's even in those tankers? That's exactly what Boson Whitewater is doing.
No water is wastewater, it is just wasted water.
I'm Avni Raja. You're watching Startup To Scaleup. And in today's episode, we're talking to the founder of Boson Whitewater, Vikas Brahmavar. His company is tackling one of India's biggest challenges today, that is water scarcity. Vikas, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show. Let me straight start off by asking you that I was reading you've created a powerful contrast between the River Thames in London and the condition of the Bengaluru lakes. So, what was that specific moment when you decided that this is the issue that you want to tackle, the water crisis, water scarcity in this country?
Right. So whenever you go outside country, anywhere outside country, you end up taking picture in front of a river, in front of a tree, because it looks good. We all feel happy about it. So while I was working in London during my lunch break, I used to walk to the Tower Bridge, and not even one day there was smell coming out of the River Thames. So we always think what is happening in our country? Why are our lakes bad? So that triggered, and probably I wanted to come and change the whole landscape. And now it's 16 years, but I think that is the trigger point, meaning you become suddenly patriotic when you go outside the country.
That's right. But because, obviously, when it comes to water scarcity, especially in India, there are so many aspects to it. One, of course, is the lack of water. A lot of people face a lot of issues on that front, like we said, getting tankers, etc. There is cleanliness of water, the lakes, etc. are so dirty. So, how did you decide what aspect of this entire issue you want to pick up?
Right. So when it comes to source, right? So there is only one source which we always depend, which is rain. All of us depend on rain. So as a country, when we plan source distribution, we look at only rain as the only source of water. And recent past 15-20 years, we have been depending on the second source, which is borewell. We go below the ground, just like we extract oil, we go below the ground, extract water, right? That's become the second source. But the second source is always creating an environment impact on the ground, first thing, and it's always not dependable, and we are exploiting it at a very high rate. Now, what is the other source which we look at? Day in day out, when we go in the vehicle anywhere in India, we see a sewage line going, but we never worry about this water, where is it going, it is adding to the contamination. So if we have to look at other source of water, then the wastewater is the only other source which we can depend on sustainably and predictably. So that is the reason we looked at that angle, where other countries, they benchmark their population, benchmark all their water distribution based on the wastewater volume. In our country, we decide based on the incoming rainfall to our city. If we change this perspective from incoming water to the city to the wastewater going out of the city, we have a sustainable, predictable model for water security for our cities.
Right. So this entire idea of turning wastewater into drinking water might not go down well with a lot of people who feel that this kind of water is useful only for other aspects such as gardening or pocha or things like that. But you have made this into 11-step patented process. Can you take us through what that process really is?
Yeah, definitely. So whenever we say recycled water, right, the first thing comes in our mind is black color, smelly water. That is what comes in our mind. But it doesn't come in our mind when we take a glass of water from a tap in Singapore. We don't get that because the perception has changed over the years in Singapore. It doesn't change overnight, right? So now, for that reason, we looked at, until otherwise the water is the highest quality, people wouldn't take recycled water as an important source. So we wanted to ensure that the water coming out of our system is 100% high quality, better than any municipal water, better than any tanker water. That's the reason we wanted to design a system which can take it to that level. Now, coming to 11 stage treatment process, the input to our system is STP treated water. We pass it through a stage called disk filtration, and then where particles down to 130 micron gets filtered, and then we do pH neutralization, then we do disinfection, then we take it to aluminosilicate filtration, we call it. That is to remove color, smell to a large extent. Then we have manganese dioxide filtration, which will remove dissolved iron, where the yellowish color tinge from the water gets removed. Then we have two stages for bacteria and viral removal. Then we have one more stage for heavy metals. All the see, even in the borewell water, we could have heavy metals, radioactive substance, many other contaminants. So we had to handle all these parameters together. So we had to choose a membrane-based filtration where we remove heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides. So, and then we take it to post UV disinfection system, then we take it to ozone disinfection system, then we have post micron filtration system. So all these stages are in series where each stage removes different contaminants, and we also cannot put a very costly, which is non-sustainable equipment. So we had to make it viable also. So we designed all these 11 stages in series to make it viable with the highest quality and commercially justifiable.
How was the process, the approach to changing mindsets? Because, like we were talking about, people may not be very comfortable, especially initially.
So initially, when we started this line, we wanted to be aggressive, and we went and met 374 apartments in Bangalore. We said, "You come, take the water, test it from your laboratory of choice. You test it, and then buy." So we met 300 plus apartments. So when a community is using such thing, it doesn't get approved by, even if one or two people say, "I'm not going to allow this," and then it doesn't move forward. So we spend good amount of time telling that this is a better quality water because you have more control in what you're getting. We have been trying to convince, but we did not we could not sell even one tanker of water for drinking water application, because the perception is so huge that people, if they have pani puri outside and come fall ill, they'll put it on water, right? So it is easy thing to people to point, because you keep consuming water, and there is a fear that disease come from water if it is bad, and all those aspects come into picture. So we did not want to go after 2 years of trying. We understand that we are not in a game where we want to change people's behavior by forcefully asking them to drink. Instead of that, we understood that the industrial water requirement itself is so large, which is currently catered by freshwater requirement. So we slowly started targeting industrial segment where cooling tower is someone is using. It is makeup water where there is no human contact. It is evaporating, and you're taking the cooling effect from water. You don't need to be worried about perception. You still need high quality water. What is current supply? Current supply is fresh water for that. So if you can cater to that segment, then that was the first step we took. Then we took for plastic injection molding, laundry, all these applications which itself is consuming large quantity of water. Why can't our water substitute this water and also add to their value in terms of unit economics? So we found that we add significant value for their end use. Say a laundry equipment, laundry unit is buying our water. Instead of fresh water, if they are buying our water, they will save on every wash, commercially as well as on the water. How do they save? Instead of using 400 grams of soap, they'll end up using only 125 grams of soap. So it helps them commercially, and they also become sustainable. So we started identifying such industry. So currently, people who buy water from us, they either buy for domestic application. Few customers are adamant to use it for swimming pool application. They take it. They still buy for swimming pool application. There are few apartments who come, tested, tasted our water and everything, and they are okay to buy for their some hall application. But our predominant supply is for industrial application, high-end industrial application, where this water adds value.
So, how does it work? I mean, you have this entire plant where you purify the water, and then the water is then sent to the people who are buying from you in bulk.
Yeah. So how it works is every apartment in India, if it is more than say 250, 300 units apartment, they will have sewage treatment plant in house. It is mandatory. They will already have a sewage treatment plant. They will use around 20% for garden and flushing. Remaining, they don't know what to do. So we go set up our equipment inside the apartment. We take two car park areas, and we ask them to give their excess water, which is currently drained and not used by anybody, and also making the apartment illegal to drain it. They become illegal. So We take that excess water which they are not able to use it for garden and flushing, pass it through our equipment using this 11 stage, convert it to very high quality, and then find an industry near the apartment within 4 or 5 kilometer radius, which is currently depending on fresh water source. We can speak to that industry and say we supply this water via tanker, which is non-exploited water, and then we supply to industry directly via tankers. Now we don't put our tankers; we employ the local tankers who are already in that region, so that their regular business doesn't get cut off. We use them to transport our water to our end user, and we pay for transport. And for the apartment, we either pay rent, and we also pay for the power which we use, and we make them compliant. And for the industry, we add value commercially, as well as our water will be better water for their process.
Right. And what about your revenue stream from this entire process?
Yeah. So for the equipment which we install inside the apartment, we raise external funds and put the equipment using our investment. So we take the risk of that investment. Say an apartment of 250 units will end up spending 40 lakhs over 4 years. So initial investment we say 25 lakhs, maintenance, all that, we'll end up spending 40 lakhs altogether. Right. Now, when we sell the water to the end client, so every tanker we charge and we sell that water to the end client, and we recover our investment over 4 years, we recover the whole capital. So our revenue model is selling the water to the end client. Instead of paying to the exploited borewell water tanker, they pay it to us, which is non-exploited water. It makes commercial sense for everyone in the cycle.
And what about the cost of the end product, the water?
Yeah. So we sell at 8 paisa per liter plus transportation as a general standard in Bangalore in different regions. In some region, if the transport is higher, then it costs little higher. But our unit cost generally is 8 to 10 paisa per liter plus transportation. Transportation generally is costlier than our water. So it will end up at around 20 paisa, 22 paisa, around that per liter. The customer is already paying 18 paisa, 20 paisa for their normal water. Now they pay this for our water.
So you've saved around 945 million liters of water, which is what I was reading, if I have that number right. That is a big number. But for, let's say, a city like Bengaluru, can you take us through what the implication of that, what it means for such a city?
Yeah, so now we've touched 988 million liters now. So altogether, this is over a period of 3.5, 4 years time. So every day we save around 9 lakh 40,000 to 9 lakh 50,000 liters of water every day. Every day, that is our current production. So if you see in terms of Bangalore scale, right, the Kaveri water distribution is around 1,450 MLD, million liters per day. We are at 1 million, almost 1 million liters per day, but the Bangalore's freshwater need is around 1,450 liters. So the scope of water supply is so huge that we have so much scope to grow in terms of growth as well. Now what happens is, now 1,450 mld Bangalore city gets, and equivalent amount of water is exploited from the ground. Okay. Now that is the problematic area. So previously, if we were drawing 1,500 mld, we were getting that kind of water from the ground where the citizens used to use that kind of water. Now, from last year, we're not getting that quantity of water. 1,500 mld is not being extracted from the water because there is no water below the ground, right? Now, the only other dependency as we grow is what is available in our streams as wastewater. If we can capture that, then that becomes a significant growth. So, our vision now for this year will touch close to 2.5 million, which is 25 lakh liters of water per day production. Be able to sell. We normally have more buyers than the volume. So, as we generally have more volume, more buyers than water volume available, right? So we'll keep on increasing the volume to 25 lakh liters per day. By March, we'll have 25 lakh liters per day. And then our aim is to touch 10 MLD in the next 2, 3 years, 10 million liters of water per day. That's the target, which will eventually by 2026 end, will touch 500 crore liters of water saved.
Is there a way in which this entire model process could be adapted to address the issues being faced in certain areas which are drought prone, like, for example, the Vidarbha region or other such areas? Would that work in any way?
Yeah, so the first thing which has to fall in place is the sewage treatment plant. So we have inspected plants in Chennai, Pune, Hyderabad, all these places. We are looking to expand. We have our first project opening month end in Chennai. We have one project running in Coimbatore. We are talking to few people in Pune. So this model is replicatable to any cities where there is excess STP treated water, which is there in every city, right? Now, if there is a city which is drought, which faces water scarcity, and the city also has enough wastewater, then this can be a very good model to look at for any city. Without this source, the city won't grow as fast as it should. So this model can be replicated. Yes.
Now, Vikas, talk to us about your expansion plans, because obviously this is something that requires a lot of upfront investment if it has to be implemented at a large scale. Things like talking to the local bodies, state governments to implement this in a big way. Does that fit into your plan or scheme of things?
Yeah, so we have been involved in the government discussion during scarcity. So in terms of policy, Bangalore is the first city where government explicitly said that apartment can sell their excess water. Now this policy probably could be implemented in other cities as well. We have been an important player in terms of deciding what pricing has to go, what apartment should get, what policy should be there. We have been actively involved in this policy making with the pollution control board, with the government authorities, with various other agencies who work towards it. Now in terms of expansion, so we have raised, this is our second, we have raised one pre-seed, one seed funding. We've raised funds. So generally what we feel in social entrepreneurship industry, fund is not the important problem. It is many other factors like government support. On the ground there are a lot of challenges which needs to be solved. Say for an apartment wouldn't even understand what we're doing. Our wastewater previously was illegally going at night to the drain. Now someone is taking and making it useful. So to get to this point it takes like 25 meetings with apartment associations. So the expansion with this is generally a gradual gradual growth, but we try to use this Bangalore model in other cities, saying that this is a proven thing where urban setups wastewater is actually used within the urban area, and it is actually saving the fresh water being used or used by the prime urban location. So if we can prove this model in different cities, then we'll expand to other cities.
Is it difficult, Vikas, to maintain that balance of saying that we are, on a path to profitability eventually, but at the same time, you have to stay true to your goal of the sustainable business that you're doing?
Yeah, so we are profitable. We can't run on burn model. Even now, we are profitable. The issue, because with social entrepreneurship, you can't get into the burn mode because you can't recover back. You can't recover even at volumes, right? So we are profitable, but there is a thin line between social entrepreneurship and a venture-backed fund which is expecting returns. Now we have tried to balance to the maximum extent. That's why we have good VCs like Rainmatter have invested, meaning people who understand the mission and they understand that this is not going to be 1 year 20x game, but it is going to be a 10 years 20x game. That level of understanding, if people have, then we are able to strike that balance, and we are able to prove on month basis for our industry. What happens, last month we are selling say 9 lakh liters and this month we are selling 10 lakh liters, then people see that there is an interest in the market to actually adopt this water. So when they see that, then the growth is seen, and we are able to balance. But that's what in our office we keep, out of 6 days which we work, 3 days generally is charity day, we call it. Meaning some apartment will call us, they don't understand yet what they want, but they call us. We spend half day there understanding, helping them. Then they wouldn't even have STP. So we get into the mode where we help them connect to some STP vendor who can solve their problem. Next 6 months they'll take just to solve their problem, but all our time we would have done some 7 meetings by then, all that. So we call it 3 days charity day, where we just help create, but the remaining 3 days has to be profitable for us to cover the loss for the other 3 days. Eventually over the year, on whole year, if you see, then we become profitable because the work which we do directly adds value to everyone in the cycle. There is no one person getting hit, meaning this is that kind of business because we are selling water, right? So somehow all that comes in as profit for us.
So, what do you think is going to be the major challenge going forward? Because as we go ahead, water scarcity seems to be something that is only going to increase. So, people will have to move towards this kind of a format to get water, even for drinking. So, how do you see that transition actually happening, and what is going to be the biggest challenge?
Yeah. So if you see, our country is a resource-rich nation in terms of natural water which is falling on the ground, right? Now, if you see, Bangalore is just a stoppage for water. Water falls on the city. We have all the water within us. Now, for drinking water, I don't know how fast people will adopt recycled water, because now we see that there is enough water, and if people can harvest enough rainwater, and so that then we are a resource rich nation, so we have all the water which is fresh water. So the adoption will be slower for drinking water application, but the adoption will be so quick for industrial application, because people can easily adopt it. So now, whenever as an agency, as an NGO, as a government, when people push it for drinking water, right? So there is always apprehension that who is going to control. We are not Singapore yet. Who is going to worry about technology? What if the system fails? All these come into picture. But instead of fighting that barrier to cross, if we fight the barrier to implement methods where industries can efficiently use this water, laundries can efficiently use this water, the prime reason for all the exploited water generally ends up at industries, because they end up using large quantity of water. Now, if we can manage that area, then the problem is mostly solved. Now, the same people who work in industries, they keep seeing this water coming at the highest quality and keep comparing. Few people keep taking samples, and then eventually people will move towards it. But that eventual could be 3 years down the line. That eventual could be 7 years down the line. We don't know. But we don't want to base ourselves in terms of binding our business towards scarcity. We don't want to always wish that there is water scarcity, there is no rain. We don't want to wish that. So we have always moved towards directing industrial water reuse, which is more efficient and effective for the city as well.
Can this 11 stage treatment process also be applied to seawater?
Yeah, it can be. Currently, all our models which we have is for wastewater. Seawater has high salts. We call it total dissolved salts. It's 35,000 plus. The power requirement becomes higher, and there is already technology. Desalination technologies are already available in the market for seawater. Uh, but I would look at seawater operating cost will be like 5 times compared to what we do for wastewater. So commercially also it takes large scale. There can be only centralized system for seawater desalination. What we do is decentralized. Each building, say we take 1 kilometer road. If that 1 kilometer road, can it become water sustainable? Can it become water positive or water neutral, where whatever they draw from the ground, they give it back to the ground, or they don't use water from outside, they use their own water. This is a decentralized network which we are trying to solve, and we don't want to move towards centralized network as well, because see, we are growing very fast. Centralized network, we don't have distribution lines to cater to the centralized, say.
So, since you've sort of, studied this so closely and you have a sense of where we are at as a country with regard to our water issues, what would you like to tell our viewers in terms of how serious the situation is, how important it is to save water, what the future looks like at this point in time, going at the rate that we are currently going?
Yeah. So the general perception in the public is when there is heavy rain, we just don't forget. We forget about scarcity. We have floods, right? So we see water everywhere. How can we ever become water scarce city, right? The term water scarcity comes not from availability of water. If you see Copenhagen or Denmark, they get 600, 700 mm of rainfall. We get 900 mm, right? But why are we feeling the heat of scarcity and Denmark doesn't feel? The scarcity is because of distribution of rainfall. So we don't have equal distribution of rainfall in different months. So because of this, distribution is one of the reasons. Second reason is the borewell water exploitation. In 2008, the average borewell depth was 450 to 500 feet. People used to go in 2008 to take water from the ground. Now the average borewell depth is 1,200 feet. So we're going 1,200 feet below the ground to extract water. Now, out of four borewells people hit, one used to yield in 2008. Out of four, one used to hit water, meaning every four borewells, they used to get water in one. Now that ratio has moved to 10. If someone puts 10 borewells, they are able to hit water once, right? So all these factors, when we see on the ground, the same land which used to have good water, next 2 years has no water, and once it has no water, it doesn't get back to a stage where it has enough water. Few rains will recharge, and again within the month of January, everything is over, right? So the scenario, government spends, at least in Karnataka, they spend rupees 50,000 per acre for surface water distribution pipeline. But we don't spend any money to understand what is the volume of water available below the ground, right? We don't have enough data. For our countries, when we hit with the scarcity, it will come to the neck. We won't even realize that it's come to the neck. That's what happened to Bangalore last year. Suddenly, one day, there is no water, right? Now, all these are indicators on the ground. We see it practically saying that my borewell is not yielding water. Fresh water used to come twice a day, now it's coming once a day, and I mean twice a week, now it's coming once a week. Things like that indicates that we have to look at something sustainable to make our cities water secure. So, for people who see, I say, from a personal perspective, we are all not everyone wastes water wantedly, right? We just don't know that we are wasting water, right? There are two ways of people looking at. Now, one place where every one of us take a glass of water from our RO purifier, we see the pain of wastewater going to the drain because for every 1 liter, there is 3 liter going to the drain. We see that. Okay. What we don't see is below the ground. All our wastewater which we bath with, all our buildings water goes to some place and completely gets wasted. We are worried about 3 liters getting wasted, but actually there is 500 liters per family getting wasted below the ground, which we are not worried about. So we should look at it holistically. Where is my water going? I'm drinking 2 liters of water, rest all 135 liters, where is the 125 liters going, right? If people look at it at that perspective, we will have more value to the wastewater coming into a cycle. So we should, no water is wastewater, it is just wasted water only.
Right. All right, Vikas, let's do a quick rapid fire round. I'll ask you quick questions and quick answers from you as well.
Sure.
The most surprising fact about water recycling.
It is completely underestimated industry.
Okay. One myth about recycled water that you wish people would stop believing.
Yeah. Recycled water cannot be made drinkable.
One city that you hope to transform with Boson Whitewater going forward.
Immediately Bangalore.
Your favorite feature of the 11-stage filtration process.
Aluminosilicate material.
Biggest challenge in changing the perception about recycled water.
Biggest challenge, we have not figured out how to change that perception, but people are changing. So challenge remains a challenge for the next few years.
Okay. Any surprising statistic about water scarcity in India that you can think off the top of your head that you would like to share?
Per capita usage in cities drastically started increasing as we become more western. So from 80 90 liters per capita, it's drastically increasing to 200 225 liters per capita. So that should reduce. That is a surprising statistics. From one side we say water scarcity, on the other side we end up using large volume of water.
All right, Vikas, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us and for that very insightful conversation, and wishing you all the very best.
Thank you. Thank you. A pleasure being here. Thank you for the amazing questions. Feel happy to be here. Thank you very much.
And with that, it's a wrap on this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to Business Hook so you don't miss out on the next episode of Startup to Scale Up. Thanks so much for watching.